Alright, this is Unit 5 of Radicals, and we're on Day 1, Level 2. Just looking at using our undoing skills to solve these level 2 questions algebraically. So when you're given a problem with a radical, you want to solve it like you would normally solve any equation. You want to undo what's happening to the x. So in this case, the x is being square rooted. So to undo the square root, you square both sides of the equation. So if I square both sides of the equation, notice I'm putting the square root of x inside of parentheses and squaring both sides. So the square cancels out the radical, and then 8 squared is 64. The quick check for these is just plug in 64 for x and make sure that you get 8 out, which hopefully you know that the square root of 64 is 8. Take a look at number 2. This equation, the work here is actually incorrect. The reason is, initially the way the problem is set up, this cannot happen. You can't have a square root of a number equal a negative number. So automatically, this one will not give you a solution. And I can prove that to you in 2 ways. One, if you take the answer that they got and you plug in 15, 15 minus 6 is 9, and the square root of 9 is positive 3, not negative 3. So right there I can tell there's an issue with this answer. And then the other way is what we did in the other video, or in the previous day's notes. If you graph each of these equations, I have negative 3 and the square root of x minus 6, and I hit graph. Based on what we did yesterday, or previously, the two graphs here are not intersecting. Here's negative 3, and then here's the square root of x minus 6. Even if I change my window to include that x is up to 15, I'll make it up to 20. So here's all my x values. There's no intersection between these two graphs at x equals 15. So this is no solution. So anytime you have a square root, and it's really only the square root or the even roots that can have a solution be negative. Okay, and then the last one, same idea as number 1. You're going to undo what's happening to the x, but this one is going to have a little bit more steps. So the first thing, we have to get rid of the radical first before we can do anything, since everything is underneath the radical. All these things are underneath the radical, so I can square root both sides. So notice the values being put inside parentheses. The square root of this squared cancels the square root, so I'm left with 2x plus 1. 15 squared is 225. Subtract 1 from both sides, you get 224, and then divide both sides by 2, you get 112. So the important part to note when you're doing these problems is put the value inside of parentheses and square each side of your equation. If it's equal to a negative solution or a negative number, there is no solution for a square root. Try the problems 4, 5, and 6 on your own.